This is the QIDI X Smart 3. I've never reviewed a QIDI machine before, but this one is different anyway because, look, let's check it out. Core XY is, or has been, a very unusual kinematics system on commercially bought printers, previously being mostly constrained to home builds or fairly obscure models, or trunksy. But it seems that 2023 is the year of the Core XY, and here's the first offering from QIDI. This is one of a not entirely matching set of 3 printers. The X Smart is the smallest, being not that much larger than a similarly sized Core XY Voron Zero, but with a bed size of a much more usable 180 by 180 and a height of 170 in millimeters. This is around the same size as the King Rune KP3S, and it's actually a good size for most people, believe it or not. I personally chose this model to review out of the 3 because it looks really striking. The larger models seem to more closely follow QIDI's more established designs, but this one is almost a cube, and I really like the aesthetics. The filament holder is kept around the back, and the filament is fed in via reverse Bowden, so that keeps the front of the machine quite clear. It's not big enough to worry about having to turn around. Again, just like the Voron Zero, you can just spin it around by hand and deal with the filament. This goes into the fully direct drive toolhead, which sits on 2 carbon rods. This is for the X-axis, and these claim to be lighter than steel, or rather, they are lighter than steel, that's a known fact, but the claim is that this helps to print faster, or rather have less mass, so it enables you to print faster. Of course, printing faster is the selling point with this machine, another reason I chose this one to review. A smaller frame ought to add rigidity and make this thing able to print very, very fast. In return for the small size, you sacrifice the extra hot end for abrasive materials that you get on the larger printers. Hopefully this will be sold separately, as I'd quite like to get hold of that. And you also sacrifice the filter and heater chamber. The touchscreen is also a bit smaller on this machine. I'm really not that bothered about that. In my opinion, none of these features really limit you, apart from perhaps the hot end, but they are quality of life features that higher end machines tend to have when it comes to printing things like ABS and nylon. You absolutely can work around that on this machine. In terms of hardware, you have a bed dropper style platform, but it's incredibly rigid because they've put, I think, 10mm rods and bearings on each corner, with 2 Z screws and a solid platform. Now normally on bed droppers these days you tend to just have support at the back, and that means that the front can tilt downwards, so it's really nice to see that they've not done that here, especially considering that there is an emphasis on print quality with a machine like this. It's worth noting that the carbon rods are seemingly glued into the fittings, and they are non-replaceable, so you're reminded frequently of how important it is not to damage them. The machine runs Clipper, and if you're watching this and you're interested in a new printer in 2023, I have some news for you. Clipper is about to become mainstream. Arguably it already has, we just don't know it yet. Clipper is the relatively recent alternative to the previously standard Marlin firmware, which you've probably heard of. It bridges between some actual firmware code on the processor for the printer, that would be the control board on the printer, and a host computer which has a lot more power to do the hard maths, or math if you prefer, of interpreting the G-code into actual movement. In fact, Clipper is written in Python, which is quite cool. So the machine has actually got 3 processors, not 2. There's the board controller, which is an STM32 chip that is fairly regular, we're used to that. And then there's the Raspberry Pi equivalent, albeit it's lower power than the Raspberry Pi, but Raspberry Pis are way overpowered for Clipper. 1.5 gigahertz, I think it's dual core. It's plenty enough, but we also have a mystery processor on the toolhead. This appears to be a Raspberry Pi 2040. This is the future, I think. The machine uses a CAN bus, C-A-N, and I believe it's probably something like this. But let's have a poke inside the base of the machine. The main board appears to be some kind of derivative of the MKS Skipper, which is MKS's offering to the Clipper gods. It came out about a year ago. It's an all-in-one board similar to the Big Tree Tech Manta, but it looks like it's more aimed towards OEMs to include in production printers rather than being a hobby thing. You can still buy it on AliExpress though if you're so inclined, and maybe I will. But anyway, yeah, it's nice to see this because standard hardware means more support into the future. The interesting thing here is the supercapacitor. I've never seen a supercapacitor on a printer before. In fact, I'm not actually sure I've consciously seen a supercapacitor before at all. Anyway, what does it do? Quite cleverly, it keeps the power on long enough to save the config and shut down the control board, the host board, without risking corruption of the file system. Said file system lives on this eMMC chip here, which is basically a flash chip, like an SD card. But it's on board, and all this looks a lot more premium than having an SD card stuck out of the side of the board somewhere. Although, hopefully, we will get a way to reflash Clipper using an SD card if it messes up. I've asked about that, and I haven't had an answer yet, but I guess it will be sorted in due course. I can't imagine that not being a thing. Speaking of sorted in due course, the interface has some quirks that need to be, shall we say, ironed out. What QIDI have attempted to do is encapsulate all of the Clipper experience into both a bespoke interface on the machine's screen and their standard slicer, which is based on Cura. And as far as I can tell, the interface has been designed to work on Marlin and tweaked to work on Clipper. This does, for the most part, work well, but doing this is no easy task. And I think we're going to see some teething problems on every Clipper printer, actually, not just this QIDI one. There certainly were teething problems on the Hurricane. Things that need fixing are simple but irritating, like the positioning of the head when it asks you to change filament. The head moving out of bounds because it doesn't know that it's been moved since it last homed, because it's disarmed and you've moved it to change the filament. Thumbnails when you send print jobs over Wi-Fi don't show up on the screen. When you want to change filament, the printer tries to raise the temperature to its maximum temperature, which is 280C, which is way too hot for PLA filament. There's workarounds to all of these, and literally nothing here can't be fixed, and I have no doubt that it will be fixed because it's all just kind of silly stuff. It's all just settings. Moving on to performance, can the QIDI X Smart 3 print fast? Yes, it can. Can it cool fast? Actually, the cooling is pretty good, but you would need side fans for most things when you're going at the speed that this printer goes at, if you're going full speed on small items. As you can see, the bottom of the XYZ cube is quite mushy, but the rest of the cube is already going slow enough because of the extra shape and slowdown time to get the shape, if you know what I mean. That's actually fine, so the cooling is almost capable of the top speed of the printer, which is quite good. In spite of how this cube might look, this is really quite high performance. You can see that the input shaping is also working well. There's minimal ghosting on the letters. If you sat down and spent time tuning the speeds of the walls to match the cooling that you can get, then the cube would probably come out perfect in about 6 minutes, I would guess. This would translate into being able to do a reasonably sensible 15-minute benchy, give or take, for better or worse. This is a seriously fast stock machine. It's possibly one of the fastest out there right now at this exact moment. Of course, we don't care so much about fast when we're trying to print neatly. So let's see how neat this printer can be. Here's my test print at the standard slicer settings. And here's another cube at the high quality settings. This takes about 11 minutes and it runs at a wall speed of 160mm per second-ish, which honestly is still quite quick. I wouldn't go that high for high quality, but that's how they've got the profile, so that's what we're working with. In terms of the extruder and hot end, they are both completely bespoke on this machine as far as I can tell. The extruder has large hobbed wheels, which is great, and it's a self-contained captive unit that can be removed off the printer with relative ease. 3 screws, I think. And the hot end similarly is held in place with just 2 screws. If they were standard mounts, that would be really handy, but it's all bespoke. Anyway, as you can see under the custom silicone sock on the heat block, There's a ceramic heater under here and a small fan off to the side for cooling the heatsink above it. It's all very neat and well designed, and I've not seen any signs of any problems with this. There doesn't appear to be a problem with heat creep, for example. You probably noticed the cutter off to one side of the assembly. That is interesting. When you choose filament change on the menus, it actually instructs you to cut the filament before removing, which is strange. I have no idea what that's there for. I've changed filament using it, I've changed filament without using it. The filament comes out without cutting just fine. It really doesn't seem to matter. Maybe it's a future multi-material system plan? Who knows? It's still cool to have though. I can't imagine why, but it is. It's cool. I did note that the nozzle on this printer is Volcano style, but it's quite a bit shorter. A lot of the hot end is custom, in fact. I can kind of understand why. Custom avoids the fact that the standards aren't so easily integrated. If you want to have a neat, small package, you need to ignore legacy sizings, if that makes sense. I do hope that parts will be freely available, though. I have no idea about part availability with QIDI because I've never reviewed a printer before, and this is so new that there's nothing out there yet. I have inquired. I will let you know when I know. You get one spare 0.4 nozzle and 2 spare cutter blades included with the printer. There's a lid on the top that pops off easily, and you're supposed to remove it for PLA or TPU printing, presumably to help with cooling. The sides of the enclosure are clear, but the back is white, and the front door is held by magnets and has an integrated handle. Having an enclosure means less noise, but it also means that you get less warping, and this is especially useful for things like ABS or ASA, which really like to warp if they have any cool air around them whatsoever. So this means that effectively you've got more chance of being able to use the cooling fan because the ambient air inside the printer is warmer. At the time of reviewing, the printer is £394 in the UK. This is up until May the 30th, according to the website. This right now is probably the most hardware you're going to get for under £400, and I only recently found out the price halfway through the review. I had actually guessed around double. It's actually undeniably cheap. The standard price, once the offer has ended, will be closer to £500, which is still a very good price in my opinion. Obviously, there are counter-arguments. There's a lot of bespoke hardware in here, so that's probably keeping the price down, I guess, because you don't have to use standard extrusion, things like that, if that makes sense. In summary then, this is an incredibly formidable Core XY printer. I think this is really setting the standard of what's to come with the mid-price range printer range that we're going to see in 2023 and 2024. It's a huge improvement over what you would have got for $500 compared to even just 1 year ago. And I think this is just another sign that things are really changing quite rapidly in the 3D printing marketplace at the moment. I have gathered some more stats on the printer and I'll be putting those on the website in due course, links below. So go and have a look if you want all the details. This is a new thing I'm doing along with printer reviews. It's a standard test process. I got fed up of trying to remember everything I have to test, so I've created a process. There's way more data than I could go through here, so go and have a look. Otherwise, as always, let me know what you think in the comments. The printer is already available for pre-order at the time of review and the links are below. I will see you next time for another review. It's a Creality, and no, it's not the K1. Anyway, thank you for watching.